It's Jim.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Muckow,
Here.
Mrs. Darrow.
Here.
Mr. Walker. Mr. Erkins.
Here.
Mr. Rastegar.
Here.
Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Nope. Moving forward, I know Jim is on an airplane on the way back, so that's his absence. All right, first, we've got several minutes to approve from our regular meeting and special meetings. So that would be dated regular meeting minutes, March. Says 26th, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then special meeting, March 19th and 31st.
Move to approve all minutes.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, okay, on to Cody.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you all for your time today. Get an exciting update here for our March results. Couple things, just a couple highlights here. Got a picture there of the Idaho Housing and Finance Association. I actually had a chance to sit next to one of our clients up at the leadership conference with the chamber for that event, and he was very appreciative of all of our efforts over the years for taking care of the Idaho Housing and Finance Association. And then I wanted to highlight this one here. We have a photo with our board chair, several of our staff members from our green team, our operations team. Boise Center received the highest level from the city of Boise of a champion level Curbit Award. So that's after a little bit more than 6 months of activity from the green team. So their efforts is definitely something that I want to make sure we recognize today. Julie and her team over with the operations side and the green team. I know Chris Lochner, who retired, was a big part of this initiative, so I want to recognize him. But we've got our new food and beverage director, Gary Mintner, in the photo there. So the team did a great job. This is a really exciting time. More to come on this because, again, we achieved this with about 6 to 8 months of initiatives. So we're really excited about next year and what we have in front of us. So doing some really great things from the Curbit side and the recycling and sustainability program. From months, just looking at the last few years from the prior month. So as we look at March of 2024, we had 11 banquets, 4 meetings, and 6 conventions, and 1 other for a total of 22 events. 25 was obviously down a little bit with 4 less events, 1 less banquet from the year prior, the same number of meetings, and 3 less conventions. And then as you look at 26, it's starting to look a lot more like 24, but actually the number of conventions coming up by 2, doing 8 total conventions, an additional meeting, and then 3 less banquets. And as I do the forecasting for the Boise Center on this, I know I present a slide similar to this on the budget side just to show when we do more conventions, obviously that leaves less space for banquets and meetings. So you do see those kind of fluctuate, and we are pretty close to capacity on most of our months. So that's kind of an example of how that shift in numbers can really impact the number of meetings or conventions. As far as monthly events, on the attendance side, we've got February on the prior there, and you'll just see really strong February from the attendance in 2024, a little bit of return to normal for 25 and 26. And then as you get into March, some really great numbers with all the public shows that we've got in March. So want to highlight that, but also those convention increases really drove that attendance, and you'll see that in the revenues as well. But obviously looking at 24 at 29,000, March and 26 actually outpaced that. So we broke a record on that in March. We're very, very excited about that. And from forecast, we were just slightly over by about 400 people from what we forecasted there. The largest shows being the Flower and Garden Show, bringing in over 10,000 people over a 3-day period of time. Treefort Music Festival was the first time that we did that event inside of, or that type of event inside Boise Center East, which was more of a trade show style event open to the public that brought in over 5,000 people over the 6 days. And then an ICYC, which is Idaho Catholic Youth Conference, brought in over 4,500 over a 3-day period. Idaho BPA, which is a Boise a bunch of young professionals in the state of Idaho coming and learning in the Boise Center, that brought in over 2,600 over 3 days. So again, really strong attendance on these events within March and really driving that record attendance number of over 30,000 folks coming into Boise Center. Guest satisfaction scores continuing to really be impressive, and something I want to make sure that the team understands how appreciative I am of these. These are not easily achieved in the world where it's really easy to kind of from a computer score somebody without being face-to-face and give them a criticizing comment or two. We've only had 3 4s out of 38 responses and 35 5s on our overall guest satisfaction scores. That was 8 from the prior month that increased on those responses. I want to point to this slide here just in particular because we are working on an internal adjustment where we currently pay some money from SurveyMonkey that does these surveys. Our internal IT team has built a very similar survey system using Microsoft Forms. And so we're investigating that. So this look might change, but the actual questions, the data and the way that it comes out will be a match to the way SurveyMonkey currently does it. So probably in the next 2 or 3 months, you'll see this change in the way that it's being reported just slightly, but the metrics will line up side by side with what we're doing in SurveyMonkey, and we'll save some money while doing it. Wanted to bring this as just a highlight, something that was brought to our attention from Festival of Trees. They've had a new event planner that they've hired, and they've had a lower metric on their attendance that came back this year than what we've had in the prior years. So this has a potential to impact numbers significantly from economic impact and attendance both. They're looking into this, so I'm kind of just presenting it here as an early thing as they look at they're using a new system for registration. They think they're getting more accurate numbers, but they are going back and making sure that their numbers prior, that there isn't that big of a variance, or if there is, they can justify it. But as you'll see in December 25, just looking at it from the original figure was about 30,000 people. They're saying about 20,000 attended that. So that's 10,000 less. That's not something that we take that number directly from the client based off of their ticket sales and their registration numbers. And so that could impact our economic impact by 1.5 million just in 25. And then when you start looking at our 26 forecast, the new figure being 20,000 versus what we were anticipating, which is an increase of 35,000, that economic impact having a similar adjustment as well. So more to come on this. I know Ali and myself are working closely, as well as Julie, with Festival of Trees on getting these numbers. They wanted a little more time to investigate on their side before they gave us a final. They felt very confident about it the first time they gave us this. As of last week, I think it was earlier this week, they actually came back and said they might need a little more time to investigate it because they want to make sure that they're not missing something on their end. So just giving that as a heads up. If that is corrected, I will go back and make those adjustments and make sure that they're highlighted inside of the report so that people can see what that impact is. On the market strategy and on the sales side, the team continues to do really great progress. Future booked revenue sitting about 47% of the goal, sitting about 2.3 million. Future book economic impact over 50% of the achieved goal at 10.5 million on the future booked economic impact number. And then future booked room nights at 19,154, over 58% of the goal. A lot of those drivers in particular, you'll see in the numbers that they come forward, but Treefort's FAM, we had that hosted in March and between 26th and 28th during Treefort. Visit Boise Center partnered on that event, and we hosted 8 clients, gave site tours, destination experiences, and access to Treefort, and did a founder meet and greet that you'll see a photo of here shortly. Really, really great event. Got to spend some time with that group, just how impressed they are. Some folks, obviously, a few of them had been to Boise, or had known of Boise and hadn't been. A few of them had never even heard of Boise, and getting to see their first experience of what this looks like at a time, especially when Treefort's going on and our downtown core is as activated as it is very, very cool. A special experience to spend the days with those folks. Want to thank the Visit Boise folks as well as Boise Center team and hosting. Our food and beverage, we hosted an event here for the group, and the food and beverage was outstanding. I actually participated in that lunch, and unbelievable. American Association of Naturopathic Physicians was confirmed for July of 2027. So 2027 continues to shape up really well. We're estimating about 615 room nights and 378,000 for economic impact on that. And then really just these slides are very much indicative of the numbers I just presented prior. But as you're looking at that orange bar, that is our year to date. And then you're looking at the purple, that's the prior year to date. So in every one of these cases, we're outpacing. In these future booked revenue would be the one that's slightly down from the year to date. And then looking at the KPIs on future booked room nights, that one's up by about 3,000. So strong numbers, continuing to do really good things compared to the goal as well with what we've set for the team there. Couple photos from that Treefort FAM visit. That one up in the top middle there is actually the dessert, was one of the things that, again, people were oohing and eyeing over as we had our lunch. Got some photos with the eyeballs, and then a nice little photo here of Eric Gilbert talking to the group and me apparently drinking at the time in that photo. So, but just a really great opportunity to kind of get into a non-professional environment with a bunch of professional meeting planners and really kind of take down the walls of what comes from most professional environments and just have a very candid conversation, talk about Boise in an authentic way and get them to experience Boise in an authentic way. So very, very proud of the team again on that and those efforts, and along with Visit Boise. Couple operational updates from Julie and her team. Again, at Treefort Market, that 5,000 attendance was a new event in Boise Center East. It actually flowed really well. I attended that event, just came down to it on a Saturday for Treefort. Really great attendance, really great setup, good flow throughout the room. So we're excited about the opportunity. That's actually going to move over into Boise Center East for next year, or Boise Center West from East, in an opportunity to grow more booths and get bigger. We've had some major repair leak inside of the East kitchen, so our repairs and maintenance costs were up in March. I highlighted that there. That's just something that we discovered, that there was a leak inside of the concrete structure of the East kitchen. So it took some core drilling and some getting it out. So that's an expensive fix. But I want to recognize the operations team and Nick for his efforts in getting that fixed, because I know it was quite the undertaking. And then we are testing AI, and I'll speak to this a little bit as we get into some of our updates on the district side, but we're testing AI to manage Wi-Fi for a better guest experience. So using some features that exist within there on disconnects, maybe why it's happening, and just learning on what it can tell us about the guest experience from the AI side. On the in-house for food and beverage for front and center, just want to highlight the busyness that March had, in particular for the food and beverage department. So Saturday, March 17th, we had actually 3 very, very large events. One of them being a breakfast for 475 in the main ballroom over in West that we flipped after the breakfast for a 1,000-person dinner for the Democratic Party. Then we did about a 360-person dinner for St. Joe's Crab Feed over in 400 at the same time. So that many meals served in one day. The kitchen, some very, very long hours. It's what I call good overtime when I see that kind of revenue and the team being able to stay upright. Saturday, March 14th, so the following Saturday, ICYC, again, which is the Idaho Catholic Youth Conference, served over 1,500 box lunches, 1,500 dinners, and a buffet across East and West. So really great job by the activation on both sides of the building for that event. So that's one example of Boise Center East really tapping into a much larger conference that we normally wouldn't have been able to accommodate. And just the way that the flow worked, I think we learned some things, but it went really, really well, and want to recognize the team for their efforts there. Then on Saturday, March 21st, we had Wild Sheep, a plated event for 940. So 3 weekends in a row with almost 1,000 people, or more than 1,000 people each time that were served. Just want to recognize the team's efforts for March. Really great month. And you'll start seeing that as I'm reporting our revenues. So as you see, we had a $1.1 million March. It was just shy of our 2024 record, which was 1.15. We ended up at a 1.12 number for March. So really, really great. Year-to-date actual, we're sitting at a budget number of 4.49, and we're actually sitting at 4.4. So I'm 1.02% off of my forecast, as I hold myself accountable to these each month. 46,000 less than the budget. So still getting in the 1 percentile. As far as the financials go, we're continuing to see the gross margins set the pace that we expected. We're sitting at about 22.9% with a goal of 22% for the year. So really the strongest quarter still to come with the fourth quarter for Boise Center. That number I believe is still achievable and something that we're going to hit as our margin. On the economic impact side, these numbers have not been adjusted to account for any of the Festival of Trees numbers until we get that accurate count from Festival. But at this point, I'll just still have that in there. I wanted to put that note. And then as far as March goes, really, really great economic impact. You'll notice it was a record for March. So the number of people that we have in the building really drives economic impact. So having those 2 trade show events in March, keeping Boise Center activated, really does drive that economic impact. We're currently sitting about 40% of the goal on year to date at about just shy of 22 million in economic impact through March. This is another really, really good metric here that I looked at and just am excited to report, would be these lodging room revenues. So if you look at March there, we were starting to see some of these numbers starting to level off. And if you look at December, January, kind of that, even in January, a little bit slightly down in the revenues, but to see March take off and be that big of a jump over from the prior years is an exciting thing to see. And then also the activity that we're bringing into downtown Boise, as I just mentioned, with all those folks. Again, conferences mixed with that kind of convention business mixed with that exhibit type of stuff that brings in the most economic impact, but also brings in that hotel revenues at the same time, is a goal of the districts that kind of checks both boxes. Lodging room demand, same story here. So demand was way up in March for 25 or for 26 compared to the prior 3 years. So pacing really good there. Hope to see that continue into April, but I think March was a little bit of an anomaly with the amount of activity that happened there. So we'll continue to look at those next quarters and see how that they come in compared to the prior. Again, you'll notice the orange line there driving up. That was March's numbers. So March was just a really, really, really strong month from the ADR side and from an occupancy side. Again, the types of events speak to them or speaks for itself and why we had those numbers come through. And then this is the static slide. I'll probably adjust this for next month based off those new numbers because I think it's going to be a little stronger. I'm wanting to see how April comes in to find out it before adjusting that and making too quick of an adjustment. Few district updates. Final work session was completed to create actionable goals and objectives tied to the district strategic priorities. I'll be getting that out. What I got a
Just a spelling.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yep.
The final work session was done with just the leadership team, the exec team, to get goals and objectives that fit the district's strategic priorities. I'll present that next month to the board. Staff and 3 board members attended Chamber Leadership Conference. It was all based around AI. So again, really great conference, really great attendance, strong networking opportunity, really encourage board members to attend if they can. But we did have 3 board members attend that, as well as 4 staff members. We had our first full multi-agency roundtable meeting that was held on April 10th. That included CCDC in the city of Boise and Greater Boise Auditorium District. That was the first full meeting that included a staff member as well as a representative from either the boards that represent those individual or organizations or city council from the city of Boise. So we had Meredith Steed from city council along with Andrea Cantor from the staff side. CCDC was Doug Woodruff. And then Latonia, and I feel bad I don't know the last name. I can never remember that one, but Latonia is from CCDC's board. She sits on that MARC group meeting, and then Jim Walker and myself from the Greater Boise Auditorium District. Early, kind of just going over kind of some of the charter, why we exist as a group kind of with that multi-agency roundtable, reactivating what was once called the tri-agency group, but opening it up to be a little bit more involved as other agencies or other individual organizations have potential shared interests that fit within those 3 organizations' goals. And then Boise Center, as I mentioned before, was named a City of Boise Curbit Award champion. So exciting news there. With that, I'll stand for any questions from the board.
Any questions?
All right, good afternoon. As Cody had said, the Boise Center right now is just $46,000 short of the budget. So he is like right on. Revenues right now are 4.4. And the budget was $4,489,000. So for the district, revenues are $3,423,000. We are outperforming the budget by about $39,000. Room nights and total spends, these are the credits that we are giving to conventions and events that are coming in, room discounts. The discounts extended. We had budgeted for $467,000. Right now, year to date, we have given the $220,000. That is what helps incentivize that economic impact. So it's a nice little return on investment that you guys can see.
I want to just clarify this because I know there's been confusion in the
Yeah.
past. This is room rental discounts to Boise Center. I know Mike even asked at one point in time.
Not hotel.
Not hotel room
Yeah,
discounts.
not
So I just
hotel
want to make sure
rooms.
that it's clear.
Boise Center operating transfers. Last month, there was 186. There was not 186,000. Because we didn't do any transfers last month. Year to date is 191,000 from Boise, for the Boise Center operating expenses. That does not include the capital or the lease. The hotel tax collections year to date for 2026, we are about $30,000 over the budget that we had projected. March came in at $828,000. Boise Center capital transfers, out of the 3.9 million that was budgeted, to date, we have spent 1.74 million. And those are the lists of the projects that were approved on the right-hand side. The district cash position right now is sitting at the 31,514,000. Again, you've got your restricted funds of 250,000 and your stabilization funds of 6 million. The investments, I know we've gone back and forth over this one. Sorry, I cannot see that far. I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my optometrist. My goodness. The net income for last month, that was earned $107,981. again, that is not the interest income that it was actually earned. So, but it is, if the stars were all aligned and you guys did a run on the investments to liquidate them, and everything worked out perfectly, then that is what would be realized with the, with all of the, cash ins. So we just need to keep that in mind. Ide Bailey is scheduled to present to you guys next month, the audit, just to give you a heads up. Things are moving fine there. We've had a new GASB 101, which is a vacation accrual reporting tool that we've had to implement. There's been a little bit of a snag based upon how we pull reports out of our payroll system, or how Paylocity actually allows us to pull those reports out, and what GASB 101 is requiring. Since it's the first year, we're redoing some of the reports, and Paylocity is refining some of those for us. And I'm not sure, I know with all of the discussion about land purchase and going out bonding, financing, all that kind of stuff, I was not here 2 months ago, and I think it was missed that we did go out for our S&P bond rating that improved from an A- to an A. So that is good news. And it does help curb those some of that interest percentages. So just to give you guys a heads up with regards to that.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Any questions?
None.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a- Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thanks, guys. On to other business. Tim.
All right, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion for item D on the agenda, which is to enter the executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 47-2051F to communicate with legal counsel to discuss legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation, as well as item E on the agenda, which is to enter executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-206(1C) to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency.
All right, do so by roll call.
Second.
Oh, yeah,
Ms. Muckout?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yes,
got it. Ms. Muckout?
yes.
Ms. Sestero?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Erkins?
Yes.
Mr. Rastigar?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for keeping me honest, Jake. All right, and we are back from executive session in open session. Sophie made the motion, TM seconded.
Thank you.
All right, on to item F. Chase.
Yes. So I guess read this first, right? Yeah. All right. I move that the board authorize the district to enter into an assignment and assumption agreement with DPRE LLC, which assignment and assumption agreement assigns to the district an option agreement and purchase and sell agreement presented to the board today between DPRE and Idaho Records Management LLC for a parcel of property located at 9th and River with an option price of $2.5 million, an additional purchase price of $12.5 million if the option is exercised, and further authorize the executive director, chair, and Director Erkins to work with legal counsel to finalize the terms of the assignment as they deem appropriate and execute the assignment and any related documents as appropriate and necessary.
All right, discussion.
Second first.
Do, okay,
I'll second.
thank you.
Cool.
Now discussion.
Yeah. So this parcel across the street is one that we were talking about along with the other parcel, but they're different owners and the timing wasn't able to line up with the needs on the initial one. So this one to meet the seller's needs. There's been continuing discussions with them, and they're now at a point where they're willing to enter into an option to purchase the property down the road. In order to not lose this opportunity, that was why there was a discussion for the option to make it so that it wouldn't go out and hit the market. And the timing of it not being able to purchase today is the sellers aren't ready to sell today. All right, so they have a business there and they want to keep running that business. So that is why we went into conversations about the option. And to make it so that we can protect the district in the future for more expansion and not being landlocked like we are here. That's why these discussions were taking place, to make it so that we can, future-proof that down the road.
And the option time is,
The option time is 5 years in total, but we can exercise the option after 3.5 years and give 18 months notice. So still 5-year timeline, but we can give notice at 3.5 years that we want to exercise that option.
We can also give the notice at 5 years as well.
And at 5,
Yeah.
yes.
and then up to 7?
That which would then push it out to about 6.5
6.5.
years.
Okay,
Correct.
Five. 5.5 in terms of giving the notice.
If you gave the notice at 5, that
If you give the notice at 5.5 years, you can give the notice at 5.5 years and it runs to 7.
okay, so it's max 7. Okay,
Yes.
so thank you.
okay.
Yeah, it's 84 months, I think is, yeah.
Okay.
But it can
Yeah.
start at 3.5.
As early as 3.5, we can give the notice.
Got it.
The soonest we'd be able to take the option or make the option happen would be at the 5-year mark.
Okay,
We have a 60-day due diligence period to do surveys, geotechs, physical inspections.
and I'm assuming the clock starts when we close after that 60 days?
The 5-year clock.
Yes,
the-
actually, Sarah,
Yes.
That close, yes,
We-
that is.
Okay.
Sorry, ask the question again.
when does the clock start on the 5-year? The option,
It-
okay,
N- No, the.
So-
After the 60-day due diligence period, I thought.
I believe the 72 months starts from I think from the date that we purchased the property, I think. I'll purchase the option.
Correct.
I think when
The option,
Uh,
not the close.
we'll check to be sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You see.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, we'll see.
thanks.
Let's see. Good question.
Either-
84 months from the effect.
Is the furthest out.
Okay.
So the 60 days would be included in the 5 years or the 7 years.
Okay,
Another 1.8 acres in the same area just across the street. So
Puts us in a strategic advantage for the site design and the layout of that site, flexibility, future growth potential. So I think that those are really, really key to where the district is headed and where downtown continues to grow. Closer to the river, as we've mentioned before, but the opportunity for that development and the flexibility that it provides is something that will be very advantageous to the district going forward. And I would just speak to the fact that off of our feasibility study, these sites will check the box for pretty much any product opportunity that was listed within the feasibility study for the district to continue to evaluate building.
On its own, as well as in combination with the other parcel.
Correct, yep.
be the coolest performing arts center. Yeah.
and so just some final details to negotiate on a few of those pieces, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
of the specifics of the timings of.
Other questions, discussion?
No, I think it's just exciting. We heard from the feasibility study that there's ample opportunity here, whether it's expo space, art space, sports space, community space, multi-use, and to have two parcels that are adjacent to each other, I think opens it up for community asset as well as creativity as we keep growing. So congratulations on all the research and conversations.
Yeah, I just really say that this land enables us to really kind of plan for the future alongside our current facility not instead of it. So it's going to continue to operate Boise Center and then still be able to plan for future development of the district without it sacrificing the current operations.
Yeah, anything? Any other questions?
No
Comment?
questions. No,
Okay.
I think Sophie said it nicely. Going from thinking that we're landlocked to having an opportunity for these two parcels is an outcome, I think, of the process and our event where we shared this with the public. So kudos to the team.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work, Chase.
Yeah.
I even appreciate your expertise. Okay, with that. All those in favor, right?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Seeing no other business before the board, the meeting's adjourned.
I don't know. I mean, I can take it.
I like,